You ever just like stop and realize something your body's doing? Like blinking? Or suddenly noticing the taste of your coffee? Or just how you're staying balanced right now?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it.
What's really going on under the hood to make all that, seamless?
Well, that question takes us right into a fascinating area. Today, we're diving into glial cells, myelin, and the cranial nerves. These are like fundamental components for those automatic things you're talking about.
Right. And we've got a good resource here, gives a solid overview of how these systems all connect. It's kind of wild to think they're not just there, but actively making things happen. Reflexes, senses, everything.
Exactly. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a much clearer picture of these rapid communication networks inside you. We'll break down the jargon and maybe find some surprising links too. It's remarkable stuff.
Okay, sounds good. So let's start with glial cells. I remember learning they were just like support staff for neurons, the main event. But that's not really the whole story, is it?
Not at all. That view is definitely outdated. They do way more than just support. Their roles are actually quite diverse. Take astrocytes, for example.
Right.
They do provide that crucial structure, yes, and nutritional support for neurons,
Hmm?
kind of like managing the local environment. But what's really interesting is their role after injury.
How so?
Well, when there's trauma, astrocytes can actually multiply and form scar tissue.
Oh,
And that scarring process, it's been linked to potentially causing epileptic activity later on.
wow. Okay, so they help, but they can also contribute to problems down the line. A bit of a double-edged sword then.
Sort of, yeah. It highlights their dynamic nature.
So what about the others? Oligodendrocytes and Schwann cells. They're the myelin producers, I think.
That's right. Oligodendrocytes, they're in the central nervous system, so brain and spinal cord. And Schwann cells are out in the peripheral nervous system. Both have this absolutely critical job,
Hmm.
making myelin.
Myelin. That's the insulation, right? Like on an electrical wire.
Exactly like insulation, it wraps around the nerve fibers, the axons.
Yeah. And our source really emphasizes how much this speeds things up. It's not just a little boost. It dramatically increases the nerve signal speed.
It really does. It's like going from, I don't know, a dial-up connection to fiber optic for your neurons, a massive upgrade.
Huh, good analogy.
And that myelination is what gives white matter in the brain its appearance. It's mostly these myelinated axons designed for speed, transmitting info quickly across the brain or out to the body.
Okay.
And a lot of those unconscious functions, temperature control, blood pressure, that kind of thing, rely heavily on these fast myelinated pathways.
So white matter's the freeway, gray matter's more the local streets where the processing
That's
happens.
a pretty good way to think about it, yeah. Gray matter is more the nerve cell bodies and dendrites.
Got it. Okay, so we have the support cells, the speed boosters. What about microglial cells? They sound small but important.
They are. Think of them as the resident immune cells, the cleanup crew of the central nervous system.
Cleanup crew.
Yeah, they're constantly patrolling. If they find cellular debris or damaged neurons or even foreign invaders, they basically engulf and remove them. It's called phagocytosis, keeping the whole environment tidy and, healthy.
The tiny sanitation department. Tireless work. It's amazing how many specialized cells are needed.
It really is.
And the source mentions that glial cells can divide. Why is that a big deal?
That's a really key difference compared to neurons, generally speaking.
Hmm.
Our source focuses on the glial cell's ability to divide, which means they can respond to injury. They can multiply to fill gaps, like we said with astrocytes forming scars. They can adapt to changes in their environment in a way that most neurons just can't.
Ah, okay. So that ability to divide is crucial for repair and response. Makes sense.
Hmm.
All right, so that's the glial team. Support, speed, cleanup, and repair. Now let's shift to the cranial nerves. These are the direct lines, right? Brain to specific parts of the head and upper body. 12 pair.
Exactly, 12 pairs. They come straight out of the brain or brain stem, not via the spinal cord like most nerves. Each has a dedicated path for sensory info coming in, motor commands going out, or sometimes both.
Okay, let's run through some key ones. Cranial nerve to optic. That one seems pretty straightforward. Vision.
Right, crucial for vision. Our source has that little memory aid, see menacing motion, highlighting, detecting important visual stuff. And it also controls the pupil's response to light that automatic adjustment.
Yeah, the pupillary light reflex. Got it. Okay, nerve V, trigeminal. This one sounds complex. 3 branches.
It's a real workhorse. 3 main branches, mandibular, maxillary, and ophthalmic. The mandibular branch is motility. It controls the chewing muscles, mastication, plus jaw tone, even part of the blinking motion.
Okay, chewing and blinking.
Then the maxillary and ophthalmic branches are mostly sensory. They bring back information about touch, temperature, pain from different parts of your face.
So you feel a feather on your cheek and chew your lunch and blink thanks in part to this one nerve.
Ah,
That's quite a lot.
it really is. Busy nerve.
All right, next up, cranial nerve 7th, the facial nerve. Seems connected to lots of places: ears, eyelids, nose, mouth, even tear and saliva glands.
Yep, very connected. It controls most of your facial expression, muscles, smiling, frowning, the works. And it drives tear production and saliva production from certain glands. Also, importantly, it shares the motor control for blinking with the trigeminal nerve.
Teamwork again.
Exactly.
Right.
And interestingly, the source notes a possible link between hypothyroidism, low thyroid function, and paralysis of this facial nerve.
Huh. Didn't know that.
And one more thing for 7, it's involved in prehension,
Prehension.
grasping food, like with your lips and cheeks,
Yeah.
getting it into your mouth.
So the nerve for smiling is also helping you grab that first bite. Wild. Okay, so moving on. Nerve 8th, vestibulocochlear. I always split this one in my head. Hearing and balance.
That's exactly right. 2 distinct parts. The cochlear nerve handles hearing, carries sound information from the inner ear, and the vestibular nerve is all about balance, knowing where your head is in space, equilibrium. And that vestibular part is also tightly linked to maintaining overall muscle tone. Those tiny, constant adjustments our body makes to stay upright.
Yeah.
That's heavily influenced by the vestibular system via this nerve.
Those little corrections we never notice. Amazing. Okay, nerve in IX, glossopharyngeal. What's its main job?
It deals with the pharynx, the throat area,
Yeah.
and the larynx, the voice box. It's key for the gag reflex.
Ah, the protective reflex.
Yep. Our source mentions you can trigger it by stimulating near the hyoid bone, that little bone in the neck, and that involves nerve IX.
Another vital safeguard. Okay, then nerve X, the vagus nerve. This one seems like it goes everywhere.
It's incredibly far-reaching, you're right. Unlike most cranial nerves sticking to the head and neck, the vagus wanders. It goes down into the chest and abdomen, connecting to loads of internal organs, the viscera.
Wow.
So it influences heart rate, digestion, breathing, even aspects of mood. It's got a huge range. And the source notes its role in swallowing, too, working with other nerves.
The body's internal superhighway controller, almost, right? Nearly there. Nerve 12, hypoglossal.
This sounds like it's all about the tongue.
Primarily, yes, it controls the tongue muscle, movement, shape, and the geniohyoid muscle underneath involved in swallowing mechanics.
Oh, okay.
Now, here's a clinical link the source brings up, related to rabies, unfortunately. Difficulty swallowing and excessive drooling, sometimes called the water licking response, can be a sign. This involves damage potentially affecting nerves IX and X for swallowing, and nerve 12 because the tongue movement needed to manage food or water is impaired.
That's grim, but a really important diagnostic connection.
It is. And just for normal function, nerve 12 is essential for moving that ball of food, the bolus, back towards the pharynx to start the swallow.
So even just chewing and swallowing, which seems so simple, involves this intricate dance between multiple cranial nerves.
Absolutely.
And the source groups them nicely, like you said. Blinking uses both V trigeminal and 7 facial.
Perfect example of that teamwork. And eating, that's a whole orchestra. V for chewing, Zaven for grabbing the food, IX and X for the swallow itself, and 12 moving the food around.
It's a beautifully choreographed sequence happening constantly without us thinking about it.
It really is. And the source also mentioned laryngeal hemiplegia in horses. Roaring.
Ah, yes. That happens when the recurrent laryngeal nerve, which is actually a branch of the vagus nerve, nerve X, gets damaged. It paralyzes muscles in the larynx on one side.
Which affects their breathing, hence the sound. Shows how specific damage leads to specific problems.
Exactly. Damage to one pathway can have significant effects.
Okay, now just a couple more points from our source. Acetylcholine.
Right. Acetylcholine. It's highlighted as a key neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger.
And it's described as primary in the autonomic, peripheral, and central nervous systems. So it's everywhere.
Pretty much. It's hugely important. It triggers muscle contractions at the neuromuscular junction in the peripheral system. And in the autonomic and central systems, it's involved in, well, loads of things. Heart rate, digestion, learning, memory, attention, very widespread influence.
A major player in neural communication, then.
Definitely.
And finally, muscle and tendon spindles. These sound like safety sensors.
That's exactly what they are. Little sensory receptors. Muscle spindles are actually inside the muscles, sensing how much they're stretched. Tendon spindles are in the tendons, sensing the tension or force.
And they stop us from overdoing it.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
If a muscle stretches too far or too fast, or if there's too much tension on a tendon, these spindles trigger reflexes to counteract it, protecting the muscle and joint from damage. More automatic protection.
So it all ties together, from the glial cells supporting everything, to the myelin making communication lightning fast, to these cranial nerves acting as direct lines, and even these tiny spindles providing feedback. It's this incredibly complex, interconnected system just letting us live our lives.
That sums it up perfectly. The glial cells create the right environment and boost speed. The cranial nerves provide those dedicated input-output channels for the head and organs, all working together.
What really struck me, though, was seeing those specific connections, like how trouble swallowing could point to something as serious as rabies involving specific nerves, or just realizing how many nerves have to fire perfectly in sync for me to, eat a sandwich. Those are the aha moments for me.
Those connections really do highlight the elegance and the efficiency of it all. And it
Yep.
makes you think, doesn't it? For you listening, how constantly these systems are working inside you right now. Every blink, every taste, just staying balanced. It's all happening because of this incredible network.
It really does.
Yeah.
Which leaves me wondering, given all this complexity we've just scratched the surface of, what other simple things our bodies do? Things we take totally for granted, rely on similarly intricate hidden networks, and maybe more pointedly, what happens subtly or drastically if one of these unsung heroes, like a type of glial cell or one specific nerve pathway, gets compromised? Something to chew on, perhaps.